INTJs. They are highly open to new experiences, they have high organization, but very, very low extroversion and agreeableness. If you've been wearing black since you were 2 years old, you're probably an INTJ, or just an ISFP in disguise. In fact, along with INFJs, INTJs are one of the hardest types to identify. For the most part, they look a lot like the cliché villains from Japanese movies and books and animes like Thanos, Sasuke Uchiha, Walter White, Suga from the BTS, Elon Musk, and many, many others. In general, INTJ's life goal is to find a perfect and efficient system for doing things, which can lead them to be as aphoristic and metaphorical as Friedrich Nietzsche or as unrealistic as Karl Marx, because they're so much more interested in the world of ideas than in the practicalities of things. They can get so caught up in planning that they forget to implement them or these ideas in the real world, either due to a low sense of self-efficacy or sheer lack of practicality. Some strengths of this type are not being easily bothered by conflicts and criticism, having good confidence in their plans, their intelligence, and also their incredible listening skills. Some weaknesses of the INTJs is their incredible arrogance, their lack of contact with other people's feelings, their extreme inhibition that makes them miss out on important life experiences, a tendency to believe that they are always right, an inability to accept that they are to blame in some situations, and a great difficulty in expressing feelings and affections. The dominant function, that is, the way INTJ sees the world, is through the introverted intuition function, or NI, which seeks to identify what the bottom line is. It is a function of perception and high openness to ideas, but only if these ideas came from the INTJ himself, that the INTJ himself perceives, which can only cause a reluctance to see other people's points of view, because they are faithfully believing that their view is the most correct, because in fact it is the view that they themselves perceive. Furthermore, it is the function that makes this type so future-oriented, without caring about small details that can often be irrelevant. The dominant NI monologue is everything is interconnected, and I must determine the meaning and the implication behind these connections. Next, as an auxiliary function, the extroverted thinking, the TE, is the function that the INTJs should be the most concerned about. It is their ability to put into practice those ideas that NI promotes. Through this function, the INTJ tries to find total objectivity in things, making them part of the MBTI rational group, while the INTP will try to create a system of internal logic with different and full of twists and turnways of doing this. The INTJ does not. They prefer total objectivity, practicality, efficiency in things. It is a question of how do things appear. Aristotle, for example, was a guy who had spectacular extroverted thinking, or Steve Jobs, although neither of them were INTJs. They are certainly figures of whom the INTJ could draw inspiration from if he wants to be better developing this function. The auxiliary TE monologue is, now that I have determined the best or most reliable course of action, I will put into motion using the most direct method available to me. Moving to FI, or tertiary introverted feeling, is an emotional judgment function, which creates a certain affection and makes the INTJ create his own moral code to know whether things are right or wrong, according to his own feelings. However, it is a childish function and can make the INTJ extremely pessimistic, both in his relationships and in his worldview. The INTJ skips the extroverted thinking function and goes from NI ideas to FI morality judgments. He is in the so-called loop, which for Jung is a terrible thing. No one should be 100% extroverted or 100% introverted, so using different cognitive function is the ideal. In this case, with childish FI, the INTJ could appear as a person with a paranoid personality because due to the lack of real experiences in the external world, he stays so inside his own head that he has difficulty changing his values, plotting attacks, and perhaps appearing as someone vengeful. Because of this, all of the issues are linked to a poor moral judgment of the immature FI. The FI tertiary monologue will be, I must stand by my values and morals at all cost, even if doing so is unpleasant. And finally, the interior function of INTJs is SE, or extroverted sensing, which often appears as a total ignorance of the INTJ's external sensations and responses. What are their physical needs? What do other people really value? These are things that they are completely ignored by an INTJ because they reject these more practical issues, more cultural issues, and especially the more physical issues of reality, so to speak. While ESTPs and ESFPs place a lot of importance on their bodies and their basic needs, they can get carried by physical and carnal pleasures, so to speak. Being those people who care about always being fashionable, always thinking about how others will see them, going to parties and drinking until they go crazy because they want to feel physical things so much. The INTJ, although, is a very inhibited person who leaves the house 3 times every 2 years. They are the type of person who didn't even know there was a pandemic because they're always called it a lifestyle. Thus, it is an exaggerated belief that the intellect is and should be given priority over sensory, motor, and physical information. As SC matures, the INTJ may feel increasingly in tune with the world around them and more able to trust their disinhibitions. Ultimately, it is a lack of trust in the world of the sensations. The immature SC's monologue would be, I must analyze all possible outcomes of a sensory experience since their physical world is subject to unexpected changes at any moment. To overcome this, INTJs should appreciate the value of rational and practical thinking. As mentioned, taking inspiration from ENTJs and ESTJs can be a good start to doing things. But in general, the types that get along best with INTJs are intuitives in general, because they see the world in a similar way, but mainly with ENFPs and ENTPs, because they value abstract ideas more than the real world. Compared to other types, INTPs are much more kinder, more naive, sensitive, and less arrogant than INTJs are. They focus much more on specific details and logical convolutions than on the big picture and practical rationality. INFJs are much more mystical and spiritual people, connected to the occult issues and social causes. The ENTJs tend to have a job. The ISTJs also have jobs and probably dream of having a family with 3 children and a dog. In short, if you like this guy, Severus Snape, or this guy, Gandalf Ikari, chances are you are an INTJ. Personally, my favorite INTJ are all of them, as long as they are not around me. Just kidding. INTJs can be great to be your college roommates or co-workers. For intimate relationships, well, who knows. But if you are an INTJ, just call me. I would love to know about you.